Hello, I'm Leah Fitzsimmons, the Patient and Public Involvement and Engagement Manager for the UK Spine Project. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the project and the ideas that underpin the biology of ageing, and then you'll hear from one of our lead scientists, Professor Janet Lord, who'll explain some of the scientific questions and challenges for our ageing society that the project is addressing. What is UK Spine? It's a network of researchers, clinicians, biotechnology and pharmaceutical companies, charities, and other stakeholders, all of whom are committed to the open sharing of research and knowledge and understanding of age-related illnesses. The idea is to bring together all of the different skills and expertise that are needed to develop new treatments to help people to stay as healthy as they can be as they age, and so that new research ideas can become reality as quickly as possible. The experience and perspectives of patients and members of the public are really vital in the work of UK Spine as we try to rapidly improve the health of older people. We've got partnerships and projects across the UK and some abroad. The universities that are involved are shown on this slide, and as you can see, they run throughout the UK like a spine, which is where the project gets its name. Medical research can often involve complex or unfamiliar terminology, and the field of healthy aging is no different. So I'm going to explain a couple of the terms that are going to be used in this presentation before we look at some of the questions UK Spine is answering. And the first is geroscience. Geroscience is the idea that instead of treating people for individual illnesses as they develop, that we try to view aging as a process that has impacts on the whole person. And this can lead to different problems or illnesses that might seem unrelated to the first illness. Geroscientists study the biological processes that underpin aging, and the aim is to understand how these processes lead to different illnesses and to find ways to keep those processes working well, in the hope that this will delay or avoid age-related illnesses from occurring in the first place. It's about treating the whole person rather than individual illnesses. Two terms that are used a lot in geroscience are multimorbidity and polypharmacy. Half of people over the age of 65 have 2 or more long-term health conditions, and multimorbidity is a term used in medicine to refer to people who have multiple long-term illnesses. Different conditions can affect one another, and becoming ill with one condition could make it more likely that you might develop other related conditions. If a patient has multimorbidity, they're likely to be taking multiple medicines to control their illnesses, and this is known as polypharmacy. If a patient is taking many medicines, they can sometimes interact, and this could lead to symptoms worsening or causing additional health problems. So a key problem in healthy aging is that clinical trials usually exclude people with multiple conditions or that are taking other medicines. So new treatments don't always get tested in populations that are representative of those that are affected by age-related illness. So as well as making sure that clinical trials and other processes for developing new medicines are patient-centred, UK Spine really wants to hear the thoughts and opinions of patients and the public on all of our work. We've developed some ideas of priorities for involving and engaging the public, but we want to hear from as many of you as possible on what's important to you. We've already worked with some patient groups, such as the Birmingham 1000 Elders, that Janet later on will refer to simply as the Elders. So in a moment, I'll hand over to Professor Lord, but as you're listening, think about how you feel about the ideas in the research and what changes it might lead to, how you might feel being assessed for how well you are aging, and whether you'd be happy to take medicines that treat the underlying biology of aging. And finally, think about how you think we should best work with patients and the public. So now I'll hand over to Janet. She's a professor of immune cell biology who spearheaded the creation of the Institute of Inflammation and Aging at the University of Birmingham. Janet's a world expert on the biology of aging and one of the scientific leads for the UK Spine Project.
So first of all, why are we, thinking about this at all? Well, again, some of the elders actually contributed to this inquiry by the House of Lords, which was published in January, and I was the specialist advisor to it. And it was looking at how science and technology can help us to have a healthier old age. And this inquiry came about because the government set itself the target of increasing independent living, so healthy living, by 5 more years by the year 2035. And it's also set itself the target of reducing health inequalities. Okay, so first of all, why has it done that? So here are some of the data, and again, some of the elders will have seen this before. So you'll all be familiar, hopefully, with the fact that we're living longer. So this is actually from a House of Lords report in 2005. So here's the ladies at the top there. And ladies, I'm afraid we always live longer than the gents, no matter what species you are, whether you're mice or man, the females always live longer. And life expectancy is increasing at approximately 2 years every decade. But why there's an issue and why the government is starting to think about healthy aging is these bottom graphs down here. And this is the period that you spend in good health, and this is called health span, or your healthy life expectancy. And this started slowing down about the 1990s. So we're living longer, but we're not living healthier. And so if you look at this graph on the right here, this is total life expectancy here, and we've got males in yellow and females in blue. This is healthy life expectancy. And then on the right here, we've got the time you spend in ill health. And for the gents, it's about 16 years and ladies 19 years. So we live longer, ladies, but I'm afraid we're not as healthy at the end of life. So this is really a challenge, and this is what we're thinking about. What about the inequalities? So this is a bit of a complicated graph, but hopefully I'll walk you through it. And it's from that new House of Lords report. So what we've got here is the blue is your lifespan, your life expectancy that you spend in good health. And we've got males on the left and ladies on the right. And so I'll take you through it. So on this bottom section is those that are the least deprived, so in the higher income brackets, etc. And you can see that here we've got approximately 10 years at the end of life in poor health. But the more socially deprived, economically deprived you are, you can see a really big difference. So not only do people in the lower socioeconomic groups have shorter lifespans, they spend much more time with ill health at the end of life. So this is again why the government has said we really want to do something about this. This is the 21st century, and we really shouldn't have such disparities. So what sort of things are we looking at? What sort of things can we acquire in old age that will reduce our quality of life and health? Well, there's a whole range of them here. So we've got arthritis here, which is very common. This is mainly osteoarthritis. It's very age related. The older you are, the more chance there is you'll get osteoarthritis. This one's heart disease in red, cancer in grey. Now that would be bad enough, but actually that's not the real picture. So what we did here at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and some of you will probably know that the Queen Elizabeth is actually the largest hospital in Europe. We see 2 million patients a year. And interestingly, it's a completely paperless hospital, which is wonderful because it means we're not shuffling paper around, but we can really get to some of the data about our patients very quickly. So in 2017, I wanted our computer bots to tell me a little bit about the patients that are coming in. And so they looked for the last 6 months of 2017. And they found that we had 15,000 emergency admissions in older adults. This is adults aged over 50. The average age was about 73, but it went right up to 116. The average length of stay was about 11 days, but look here, some people were in for months and months. But when I said, well, what's the main disease that they're coming in with? What should we try and tackle first? There wasn't one. The most common were breathlessness, falls, and delirium. And what was happening was that most people were coming in with several diseases. We call them comorbidities. And the average was 6. The average was 6 diseases per person. 83% had 3 or more diseases, and 70% had 4 or more. And how long you were in hospital was related, yes, to how old you were, but much more to how much disease you had, which I think makes sense. but we would argue that's how badly they had aged. So what do we need to do about this? I would argue that what we're doing at the moment isn't helping at all. What we do at the moment is we have all of these age-related diseases and we research them one by one and we treat them one by one. So if you have heart disease, you go and see your cardiologist. If you've got rheumatoid arthritis, you go and see a rheumatologist. So you've got lots of visits to the hospital, but also lots of drugs. So you end up with polypharmacy. So what the UK Spine is all about and what our research is all about is saying, well, why don't we just tackle aging? You know, if this is the cause of everything, tackle aging. So until fairly recently, about 10 years ago, we couldn't have done this, but now we do know what causes aging. And it turns out there are just 9 processes in your body that cause you to age. And by age, I mean becoming less well as you age. So what's the evidence that we could actually stop this process and try and get us all to live a healthy old age? Okay, well, here's one experiment. It's very complicated, but I just want you to focus actually on this bottom left picture. So this was a study done in mice. And what they did was they stopped one of these aging processes, and the process is called senescence. And this is old cells. So old cells build up in your body as you get older, and these are one of the things that cause you to age. So this is a little old mouse here, a normal mouse, and you can see he looks a pretty old mouse. He's got curvature of his spine. He's got very little muscle left. You can't see him, but the poor thing's got cataracts. And what they did was they made a mouse that had no senescent cells. And this is the mouse that had no senescent cells. And I think you can see he looks a very healthy mouse, despite being an old mouse. And this field has got so far that last year there was the first clinical trial in a human being of a drug that can do the same thing, kill these senescent cells. And it was just a short study. They gave it to patients with one disease, a lung disease called idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. And after just 9 days, these patients who can barely walk normally, they're so unwell, they could walk better, they were less frail, they could get out of a chair more easily. So this field, as Leah said right at the start, is moving very quickly. And so this is where we need your input. So what hurdles have we got in the way? Well, have we got any drugs for a start of that can specifically block all of those 9 aging processes? The answer's no. That's where we're working now. Currently, we're using drugs that were used for other things, but it turns out they can slow these aging processes, but that comes with some problems. Do any of these drugs prevent more than one disease, that multimorbidity I told you about? Again, no, we don't know that. The trials so far have all just looked at one disease. How do we test such drugs in humans? Do we wait till a person is very sick with lots of multimorbidity? Or do we come in earlier? What do we do? How do we do this? Would people take the drugs? And this is what we need to know from you today. Would people even want to do this? And would industry make such drugs? Is industry really going to put all of their effort in making drugs that stop several diseases instead of drugs that target them one by one?
Thank you for finding out more about the UK Spine Project. I hope you found it interesting and it got you to think about how we improve the health of society as we all age. We'd really like to hear any ideas you have on the project, whether you'd like to get involved in our patient and public work, or just tell us what you think or make a suggestion. You can get in touch with us by email or through Twitter, or you can find more information on our website and our YouTube channel. Thank you.